I actually grew up in Townsville in North Queensland. My parents split when I was about 3 or 4 years old. So I grew up with mum in a single parent household with 2 younger brothers. I found soccer when I was about 5. My grandparents enrolled me into that and I played competitively my whole life. It was always my dream to become a professional soccer player. And then when I was a teenager, I basically came to a crossroads when I was 17 and I was either, do I move to Brisbane and pursue becoming a professional soccer player, or do I choose the path of joining the military, which I didn't realise there were so many different career paths in the military. But the big kicker was that you could play soccer for the army and travel overseas. So I was like, I'm going to pursue this path, and then I just thought there was a lot more opportunity associated with joining the military at the time. I became the first female diver in the Australian Army, and that was probably the closest thing to like a special forces environment, just because of how physically arduous that it is. A friend of mine from Duntroon had left Afghanistan, and then he actually founded a company to help veterans transition out of defence and come into digital skills. And I just got really interested in business and technology, and I thought, I want to go into this career and this domain, this industry where it feels like there's an abundance to learn. And I was just really, really drawn to that, what makes the top 1%, the top 1%.
Yeah.
But I think that at the heart of it, they just really understand influence and how to get outcomes and ultimately help a customer to solve a problem or seize an opportunity. Being high agency background that I have and just like a mix of opportunity, ended up having this amazing career in cybersecurity. So I just think there's no better industry in the world to get into than tech.
Tech sales.
Tech sales.
So walk me through just growing up. What where did you grow up, and then what was that journey like?
Yeah, origin story. Yeah.
Origin story.
Spoke dad's side over in Perth, but I actually grew up in Townsville in North Queensland. My parents split when I was about 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
So I grew up with mum in a single parent household with 2 younger brothers.
Okay.
And how would I describe upbringing? Is like interestingly, I think being in that sort of nucleus of a family, there was like probably just like untraditional upbringing that I thought at the time was probably a little bit more normal as I got older in terms of like just like some domestic violence things. Was fortunate enough to go into a really great school. Mum managed to find the funds for education, which was really good. And I was also the eldest child, and then upon reflection I look back at my schooling journey and I went to the same school from kindergarten, primary school and high school. And interestingly, when I graduated primary school into high school, I was always the most senior grade.
Okay.
And I was also school captain and sports captain. I was very athletic, and I was also like top of the class in terms of education too. So I don't know if that was like a regional town thing, but yeah, again, upon reflection, I sort of look back at it. That's probably a little abnormal in a sense, but yeah, it was a great childhood. I played soccer since I was really young. I found soccer when I was about 5. My grandparents enrolled me into that, and I played competitively my whole life. And it was always my dream to become a professional soccer player.
Italian blood?
Italian blood, it's just in my DNA. So I think that carried through ended up achieving the goal of being a professional soccer player after sort of ending my high school in Townsville and then moving into the army and then playing. So a bit of a varied background in that sense. But origin story, very much split between North Queensland and WA, 2 of the best places in Australia.
God's country.
That's right.
So straight after school, you went straight into professional soccer?
Well, interestingly, I always played competitive soccer like my whole life. And then when I was a teenager, I basically came to a crossroads when I was 17.
Yeah.
And I was either, do I move to Brisbane and pursue becoming a professional soccer player, look to play for Brisbane Roar in the A-League in Australia, or do I choose the path of joining the military? And probably because I got exposure to a lot of people in the army in Townsville, there's a big base there, and I had a lot of lots of friends in my social group that were currently serving in the army. It sort of popped up for me, and then the big clincher for me actually was I stumbled upon like an expo day, and I found like a couple of pamphlets from join the military. Here are all the jobs you could do, which I didn't realize there were so many different career paths in the military. But the big kicker was that you could play soccer for the army and travel overseas. So I was like, I'm going to pursue this path, and ended up doing some testing. You've got to go through like the recruitment services, and scored pretty well. And they recommended that I go the officer track, which is going to Duntroon. I wanted to be like a dog handler, and that was like, I think everyone is very appealed by becoming a pilot. So it's like career choices in the abundance, but going through that process, I actually chose to join the army at that crossroads instead of pursue becoming a professional soccer player. I was probably like on the edge in terms of making it. And then I just thought there was a lot more opportunity associated with joining the military at the time, at that point at crossroads.
What jobs like called out to you when you were looking at getting into the army?
Yeah, I would say like there's like I remember specifically looking at the dog handler job which is like a security capability in the Air Force. I was like, that would be really cool, working with dogs and providing that capability. And then you go through like a very rigorous testing process to actually choose your suitability for roles. And there was a few others that popped up. And the recruiters were just like, well, you scored pretty well. We think we have a shortage of officers at the moment in the Army. Would you be interested in joining the Army? And I was kind of like, no at first. And then they sort of were at me a couple of times. And then I made the decision to join the Army and go to Duntroon. It was actually, in hindsight, like one of the best decisions I've ever made.
So what does that mean when you went there? What were you doing?
Yeah, it's like it's technically called a general service officer, but it's fundamentally where you enroll in arguably the best leadership training institution in the world, because it's a 18-month program where you learn how to be a leader in the Defence Force. You're learning like offensive capability to go, in wartime. There was a lot of Afghanistan campaigns in sort of my era, Iraq deployments and that sort of thing, and providing that national security service back into Australia, best country in the world, but doing that like in international domains. And the general service officer stream as a capability is very much you learn how to become a great leader within an operating environment, which is like wartime, and then you're coming back and basically training and having a readiness to lead troops, and that's usually in different capabilities. So for me, I did 18 months at Duntroon to learn that all the way through, and then I ended up graduating into the like engineering capability, which is combat engineering. It's a lot of construction, demolitions. You're basically providing like a mobility or a counter mobility effect on the battle space, or a sustainability type capability.
What does that mean?
Just like building.
What's an example?
Like building a forward operating base, for example, like constructing that if you're deployed overseas. The engineers
got it.
Do construction and provide that as like a sustainability effect. Otherwise, like a very prominent ones are like you would have seen like Afghanistan wartime campaigns when you've got like the mine detectors, the guys sort of clearing the road and detecting like IEDs, which are improvised explosive devices, and that's a combat engineering capability called the sapper, and that's just like it's an overarching capability for the Defence Force that is produced for people in those sort of environments. So yeah. Crazy the turn of events that happened at that point in my life, that's for sure.
Interesting. So when you joined, what was the split up between female and male?
Yeah, good question. I think my cohort in Duntroon were about 100 people strong, and then we had a cohort of people that came from ADFA across the hill, so I went direct entry. So I think we were about 150 people in my class in that cohort at the time, and there was probably maybe 20 to 30 women across the whole cohort.
Okay.
So split, what's that? Maybe like a 80 to 20%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that increase by the time you exited the army?
Yeah. I think there's been a lot of certainly when I came through I served 7 years in the army, but I remember graduating Duntroon and going to the School of Military Engineering, and again, turn of events at the time, the chief of the Defence Force, I'm pretty sure, or at least the chief of the army, became very public. I think it was Morrison at the time, and was just like, in a lot of the Australian news media and outlets, was just like, we're going to open up combat roles to women and females in the Defence Force, permitted that they have the physical, mental aptitude and capabilities to do so. I think, I'm not too sure what it looks like in terms of special forces, but I became the first female diver in the Australian Army, and that was probably the closest thing to like a special forces environment, just because of how physically arduous that it is. And so I think there was definitely a wave of new women that came through Defence Force, but there was also a lot of senior leaders that I got exposure to at the time. I wouldn't say that it was like, whilst it was a very male-dominated era, there was a male-dominated environment, it was still a very sort of equitable opportunity when I came through the ranks, at least through the army, and I can see that even more and more so now. Susan Coyle actually just became the chief of the army just in recent times, and it's probably the first chief of army that we've seen in Australia, I think, from memory. So yeah, it's definitely amazing to see the women come through the ranks, and particularly in military male-dominated environments, and even sort of working in the tech domain today. It's there's a big wave of women coming through, which is good to see.
So, like, obviously, I'm assuming it's like very alpha being in that environment with like a lot of men, and obviously at that level, like, what was it like being a female, being around all that? Yeah,
I had a great experience. Like, I turned up to Duntroon in the middle of winter. I always tell the story of coming from Townsville where it's 30 degrees in June, July, and I turned up to Canberra on the parade ground and it was like 2 degrees. I had like frostbite on my feet, my toes, and standing on the parade ground for like a couple of hours at the time. But you know, I was certainly like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I think there was maybe like a naivety about me being 18 years old, that I was just like had this readiness to take on the world. There was a new opportunity, but I was like really well supported. Like I had an amazing career coming through both Duntroon and the rest of the army, and I just think it was like, I always saw it as like a capability thing, not so much like a gender thing. And I think that just rang true being in an environment like Defence Force. It's just like if you're up to the task and you can do the task, gender's kind of like a lesser known thing. At the same time though, there was definitely challenges. You know, I had experiences as a leader in the army where I had to, you know, fire people, and I had to investigate, you know, abuse charges and stuff like that too from that sort of dynamic. So it definitely opened my eyes a lot just from outside of my own personal experience into, you know, what hardships can also be faced in those sort of environments. And it's not to say it's maybe like it's a cultural thing and an environmental thing. But personally for me, I had a very good career coming through the army.
And so coming up to you there 7 years.
7 years, yep.
Like, as you're coming up to the end, like, how are you thinking about the next move, like being in that environment? And like, are people like, I mean, I know people like actively investing in property and getting involved in that, but like, I guess I got one question. Are people actively like managing their money accordingly in the army? Do you notice?
Management of money, I don't know. It's like, I think I mean, I was around pretty switched on people, and I remember, you know, being a little bit younger because most of my cohort were male and they were a lot older than me as well. Like the direct entry path, you typically have people that have gone through a career already and they're coming into Duntroon maybe in their 30s as opposed to being 18. I was very young for my cohort. And I remember speaking with people, you know, about like debt and investments, and there was like a lot of just social advice around get out of debt first and then go and invest. But I would say that probably more, you know, I don't know, there's probably just like a way of thinking that comes with defence people, and probably depending on, you know, if you're soldier track or officer track, it might go into that. Definitely my experience just really varies in terms of like money management. But yeah, like at the time when I was thinking about career moves, is definitely like a known thing. You either stay in the army and, you know, look to become very senior. And I think certainly after the captain rank, which I got to, you sort of stay the track, become a major, lieutenant colonel, you sort of climb the ranks and seniority from there and aspire to become, you know, like a commander and a chief. Or it was like you make the move at the point in time that I was as a captain and go and make a career for yourself in the corporate domain. And I got very interested in business and technology, and I stumbled upon this thing with tech sales because a friend of mine from Duntroon had left Afghanistan from deployments. He medically discharged, and then he actually founded a company to help veterans transition out of defence and come into digital skills and digital careers. And I just got really interested in business and technology, and I thought, I want to go into this career and this domain, this industry where it feels like there's an abundance to learn. It just feels like there's no ceiling. And I was just really, really drawn to that, probably more so from like a psychometric profile. And I just thought there was a lot more opportunity to do that, make a pivot at the time, than continue down the ranks in defence.
So then what happened after like post seven years of serving? You just went straight with that person?
I basically reached out and it was just like, hey, I'm super interested in business technology. What do you think I could do? And he was like, go sales, like good with people, extroversion, did a bit of psychometric profiling and that sort of thing. And then was able to, you know, work with him and their team in terms of finding access and introductions into tech companies themselves, and managed to transition out into SAP, which is like a very large tier 1 global multinational tech company, as a commercial account executive, which is down sort of the tech sales track. And again, at the time, it was like translating a lot of skill sets and experiences, which army and tech sales seem like the furthest things apart. It's just like, how on earth can that pivot be made? But when you actually look at the heart of the person, skill sets, strengths and attributes, you can make a lot of parallels to the role of sales, because, you know, as we talk about, you know, sales can be very multifaceted. It can be the left brain thing or the right brain thing, and there's no sort of silver bullet. It's like we've got a lot of training around sales. You know, there's MedPIC frameworks, there's all sorts of professional training with sales and business acumen, but at the heart of it, you've got to find the thing that works for you.
Yes.
And that's that engagement with people as well. That really matters. Before I transitioned out of the army too, you know, my lifelong dream was to always be a professional soccer player, and I managed to do that whilst also serving in the army. You know, I was just speaking to a friend, Delabor, who's now a general manager at a agentic AI startup that's coming into Australia at the moment, and he's interestingly also a next Duntroon grad, and he was in the army. And, you know, it was just like sort of relating to the fact that we both entered the period of army whilst we were a few decades apart. I came through the army in like peacetime. You know, there's a lot of stories about people graduating Duntroon and going straight to Afghanistan like the next week. But I sort of missed the boat a little bit in the timing. I came a couple of years after that, and then I was very much in like a peacetime zone between 2012 and 2018 when I served. And there was no real like active. It was kind of winding down from Afghanistan and winding down from Iraq. And so it was a lot of peacetime, just like maintenance mode, training mode back here on home ground. And that whole anchoring point about, you know, I could play soccer and represent the army, I actually went to my bosses at the time and said, I'd like to get recognised as an elite sports person. I'm playing competitive soccer still, you know, in the National Premier League here in Brisbane, but I want to go and pursue playing professional sport as well. And they actually enabled me to do that at the time, because professional women's sport is like a 3 to 4 month season at the end of the year, and I was able to manage that with my army career and play. Ultimately, it was about 4 seasons in the A-League towards the end of my army career.
Unbelievable.
So it was just like, there was just something for me that was like a feather in the cap. I want to do the thing that I have always said in my life that I want to do. It's probably the similar itch to being like very entrepreneurial or having that desire to be a founder. It's like there's always something like within you that you set out to do the thing you've said you've always wanted to do. And I saw my window of opportunity in the army, given all of those factors, that I could go, and I sort of pitched myself into a few different coaches that were looking at talent, and then went over to Perth and trialled, and I chose Perth because, you know, Dad and my family were over there. But I ended up, my very first season I played in the A-League, I joined the team when Sam Kerr came back to Perth, and she also brought like 4 of the other big name Matildas back home with her. And so I was just in this star-studded like all-stars Matilda Perth Glory team, and we literally won every single game of the season except for the grand final in my very first season in the A-League. And I played a couple of seasons after that. I moved around Australia a lot with the army, but sort of did both careers concurrently, but again, management across the year. And then, I just sort of, my resume looked very abnormal when I wanted to come into tech, but I think they saw the drive in me that attributes the background between both, and that skills translation was something that a mentor of mine at the time helped me to do, to actually angle myself and my positioning statements back into tech sales. And it's just been like an amazing career from there.
What was your first year like in tech sales?
It was really interesting. Like I was responsible for selling into the commercial and the mid-market across ANZ. I remember my very first deal was for Pedders. They're like a big sort of car parts manufacturer, and flying to Melbourne pretty periodically with my boss to go there. But I covered sort of mid-market commercial territory, and came really, again, just like a new domain, learning a new skill set. Got a few good successes in a couple of quarters in. High deal velocity, most deals signed in the quarter, and that sort of thing. I had a really great first year. I would say though, like coming from the military into corporate, it was a bit of a culture shock too. Just very like very, very different cultural environments, as you can imagine.
Did you have to like adapt initially?
Yeah, big time. It was just like learning new jargon, new structures and operating models, you know, new people with different value sets, like camaraderie, very different. So definitely a big culture shock at the start. But thankfully I also had a lot of really good peers and mentors at the time, and people within the ecosystem that I really, like, I still touch base with today, and even like 8 years later, still stay in touch with a lot of the people that I worked with at SAP, which is really cool.
You'd been the first one at the meeting on time?
Yes, I was. Always Benny.
So run me through, like, what's the saying in the army if you're like a minute late, or like what is?
Yeah, it's just like, you know, it's always like you want to be 5 minutes early in the army, because it's just like, there was always like this thing in the army, it's like if you're a minute late, you've killed your troops or something. It was just like sort of circulated with the instructors at the time.
Makes sense, huh?
Makes sense, yeah.
Makes sense.
You know, if you've got everything well drilled and you need to, you know, if you're on a mission and you've got to, you know, step over the line at that exact minute, and you don't, everything else can crumble around that. So it's just like, I think it was just institutionalized in me. But coming into the corporate domain, literally people are like 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late to meetings. Things just change all the time, and I'm just like, I need to like have a mindset shift here, because the only person getting all grumpy about this is me. So now it's just like, you know, and of course, like, meetings can run back to back too. So it's like usually people are squeezing as much as they possibly can in the hour block. So yeah, that was a big funny one to adjust to early on.
Did you feel that you were quite natural at like getting to understand how to sell?
I think I've always had like an ability to relate really well to people, like understand the person first and foremost. And so coming into SAP, it was very much like really just learning the commercial acumen associated with selling was like the big thing that I needed to learn, like almost the economics of it, the billing, like understanding budgets, interfacing with like a chief financial officer, just understanding like the machinations of selling from a economical and commercial perspective. But the people side, I always had a natural ability to like build champions, as we describe it. Like I remember my first stakeholder that I sold to was like, she gave me a reference on LinkedIn like straight away after like doing a deal with her sort of thing, because it was just like a very natural emotional connection that I think I was naturally able to develop. And I remember that early on with my manager at the time at SAP, he was just like, I love that you can develop relationships so quickly and easily with these customers, and I think that's a big standout for you, like, as you move forward in your tech sales career. So yeah, there's always an element of like what's unique to you, your style, and then just like also finding the sales thing that works for you, because sales is always different for people.
What do you find, like, when, I'm just curious, we'll tap it, like double click on this like later on, but in tech sales, right, obviously people are coming from all different backgrounds, right? Like you're coming from the military, I'm sure people are just coming from very, very diverse backgrounds,
Yeah.
Like, what are the top 1% bringing to the table, do you think, that is why they stand out? Like, what is it specifically?
Yeah, I think this is like a really common question, like what makes the top 1% the top 1%?
Yeah.
And I actually think that there's like a confluence of things. Like there's a multitude of factors. Like I could sit here and say, they're the hardest working in the room, but sometimes it's like, optimizing for activity is not the best way to be successful. You could be optimizing for leverage instead, and you can get better, bigger outcomes. So I think the thing that, in my experience, that really sets the top 1% out is that for sure. But I think that at the heart of it, they just really understand influence and how to get outcomes and ultimately help a customer to solve a problem or seize an opportunity. And sort of work backwards from that, like the classic 7 habits of highly effective people thing. Start with the end in mind and work backwards from that. It's just like, there's always going to be competing priorities, or your stakeholder management, or, roll med pick over the deal as a common sales methodology. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think you have to have an intelligence and a high agency that bias for action to sort of get shit done in a sense, but also doing that in a way that is also valuable and insightful. There's no use just making a heap of noise. I think in the top 1% enterprise sellers, at least that I've worked with and been part of, my last experience is selling into the top 200 organizations across all of APJ. This is like the top 20 companies in Australia, the top 25 companies in India. It's like proper strategic and enterprise selling, and like that's very complex and it's very multifaceted.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of dimensions to being like a top 1% seller, and you have to be like almost polymathic in a sense. I think from what I've seen in terms of brilliant operators, is they know how to execute really well with that action and that high action orientation, that high agency. But there's also like a depth of expertise, strategic thinking, and the outcomes and the influence that also come with the way that their style comes to life.
Yeah. The reason I ask is it seems it's like a more complex selling process than, for example, like let's call it like high ticket closes on the phone.
Yeah.
I was telling Kayla offline that, when I look at people selling over the phone, like in education, you get like let's say you have 2 sales reps who like are technically like they're technically okay. Like they tick the boxes, right? Their competency is good. For me, in my experience, I see the one who's got the highest conviction on what they're selling, like founder conviction. Like they would speak like the founder would about the product or the service. They typically outperform everyone because it just comes across on the call, and the prospect obviously buys into that so much. But again, the selling situation, the dynamic of the B2B, the enterprise, just seems like so much more complex in a good way. There's just so many different, as you said, like dimensions, variables, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a fundamental, and I agree, like what I've seen in B2C and even just like, I think that high ticket industry, it's like you can bring the energy and the conviction in the call, and it can be like a 1, 2, 3 touch close, and you can close, a new customer on a call. That's the B2C motion, is just like the highest velocity sales cycle just in the world. And so conviction and energy is so critical to that, because you have to instill that belief, and you've got to also move someone from the point that they are today to a future version of themselves, which that translates really well in terms of getting that outcome. But you're right, Benny, it's like B2B, tech sales has a whole nother dimension to
Yeah.
it. Like the fundamental difference between B2C versus B2B in itself, yet alone technology and like transformational outcomes that can come within an enterprise organization. If you think about 100,000 person organization trying to implement a new technology or capability, look at agentic AI today, right?
Yeah, it's different. It's big.
It's just like a whole different beast. And so, we always sort of joke in B2B tech sales, it's like, you'd rather focus on the $1 million deal versus the $100,000 deal, because it's like the effort and the economies of effort are sort of similar.
Same problems,
right? And you still got to manage lots of stakeholders and stuff, so you may as well just focus your time on the bigger deal. But by the same token, just the nature of B2B tech sales, it's like longer deal cycles.
Yes.
It can be 3 to 12 months. I've been with deals that have been 2 to 3 years of pursuit. I've been involved in a $100 million deal at Palo Alto Networks, a big security transformation project, which we were a part of. And there was like 5 of us as sellers on that deal. Plus the CEO was selling that deal. It was one of the largest Indian banks, largest banks in the world, like hundreds of thousands of people looking to transform their security operations. It's just like the scale is just absolutely wild. And you think about a deal being that size, it's just like, of course, there's complexity to that cost of change, implementation. You're also dealing with, very educated, intelligent people at all sides of the fence, the customer side, back into the internal organization. You're dealing with partner, stakeholders, systems integrators, other technology partners. It's just like a whole other beast.
Yeah, like the decision-making tree seems like wild compared to like B2C. It's like typically 1 or 2 people like who are involved in that decision.
Yeah.
The B2B enterprise seems like it's just layers, right?
Layers, yeah. Especially the larger the organization.
Yeah.
And you're right, B2C, very much like a single decision maker.
Yeah.
Single budget, very quick decision. And so then other side of the spectrum, if you think about it as a spectrum, it's like there's literally coalition of the willing to even consider change. There's new titles being created, especially with technology. Like there's rise of the chief AI and data officer today. And that wasn't necessarily an executive title even 10 years ago, though, AI ML's been around for long, but just talking about this current era.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's like there could be 5 major economic buyers, decision makers around that roll up into like a budget owner, and there's board of directors involved. And so it's just very complex in the sense of the decision-making criteria and the decision-making process, and ultimately what affects change within the organization when you think about rolling out technology.
And then also you're getting supported as a team, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not the sole sales rep who's just like attacking this. Like you've got a team of people who are supporting you, and maybe it could be in a technical way, right? And different
absolutely.
ways.
Yeah. Typically, like as a rep, you're very much responsible for the revenue outcome for the business and the outcome to help the customer. And so you own that. That's your area's responsibility, but you're very closely paired with like a technical stakeholder. And then yet alone, and depending on the organization too, you could have basically a mirror of that team within a specialized way. And then of course you've got like the whole ecosystem around you too. There's like deals desk and renewals people, and there's channel people, and like, there's just like, there's a big team associated with doing a deal. Management, leadership, very senior leadership. That example I gave where it's like CEOs involved. So you just have resources and arsenal at your disposal. And I think also the way to manage that deal and that sales cycle across such big stakeholder groups is also very interesting, as opposed to sort of B2C. Yeah.
I mean, Salesforce just came out recently, and like they were talking about how like their sales teams, like they're not cutting them. It's like becoming pretty well known now that like it's the last division where we're seeing cuts, right?
Yeah, we're seeing that everywhere across technology. Like for Salesforce to come out and say, we're growing at a rate of not still, and we are cutting a big portion of the workforce, but we're keeping go-to-market and sales. There's a lot to be said for the industry. And I think a career for people as a whole. And we see that across a lot of other technology companies too. Like at the heart of it, the revenue organization, the go-to-market organization is always going to be key. And a big trend we're actually seeing in the tech market today, Benny, is the fact that particularly in the AI era, it's how the technology and the product serves the customer, but it's also the quality of the people in the go-to-market organization too that the customer's interacting with. Both of those things are big decision criteria for the customer too. So I think it talks to an excellence of the sales rep and the team around it while bringing a new product to market at the same time.
I want to get into your new business, your new venture, Double Triple, that you and Kayla have co-founded. But I just want to talk about like cyber. Like that's obviously what you're recognized for. So like at what point did you start to then go, hey, like this is something I want to tackle?
Yeah, well, I think my learning style has always been hand on hot stove.
Okay.
And so coming out of army and moving into that commercial sales role at SAP, I actually connected with a former military officer who had his own company. He was about 7 or 8 years in John Walters, and he had a technology distributor, and he actually specifically wanted to find a former military officer to come in and lead and grow the cybersecurity practice for him. So I met him at a social event within the industry, and then just got along really, really well with him. And then I ended up coming into his business to really grow the cybersecurity practice from what was $4 million in revenue at the time. And then at the time of leaving, we grew it to about $100 million top line revenue over about a 3.5-4 year period when I was there. And I was sort of first on ground for that business unit, brought in a technical director, built out the team. We were a team of about 25 before I left, and then was really responsible for helping cybersecurity startup technology vendors come into the APAC and the ANZ market and help to actually bring them to market in indirect channel motion. And that was just like, it gave me like a whole new world of exposure in terms of the cybersecurity industry. And I sort of fell into it of like, okay, I understand like national security from my army experience, and now I'm applying a lens from a technology perspective into cybersecurity. And it was a really easy framing for me to understand. And so when I'm having conversations with partners and customers, I could just really pitch the value of being secure and mitigating risk. And just also the dynamism between people-based psychology, war sort of philosophy, and also like technology and the impact to businesses from a, adversarial perspective. Like it's like an attacker versus defender thing, right? It's very, very blurred. And I sort of found, that was a really nice link for me, and I found common ground in terms of my own story, and I could bring that to life when I was selling, so to speak, because it could come from a point of conviction too and passion, because it was like very highly related. So I just sort of came out of the gates then. I really found my groove in cybersecurity, and I found also probably like an archetype of person that I really related to in the enterprise too, like a chief information security officer. Could really, really get along with, because I understood that framing and I knew how to translate like technical risk into business language, learning that business acumen. Ended up doing my MBA as well, and just helping you with that framing. And then also just understanding the language of the buyer. The CISO really, they want to buy down risk. They want to be more secure. They need to, move quickly for an organization and enhance innovation, but in a secure, governance way. And I think that was just like a very powerful confluence for me coming in at that time. And then, I think John Walters was really instrumental in my own career at NextGen. And then I think also just sort of hit the ground running in the cybersecurity domain, because we had such incredible growth and we attracted great talent and then we attracted great partners. And then I got what I describe as almost 10 years of experience condensed into 3 or 4 years, just because of the vantage point we had in the market. And then I started to get really close to the VC and the innovation ecosystems, because we were looking for signals out of Silicon Valley and Israel, where all of these great cybersecurity companies were coming from, and basically going to pitch them to work with them and go and pursue those sort of new accounts for us to bring them into the market. So it sort of just came out of the gates, probably out of nowhere for a lot of people in the cybersecurity industry. Again, maybe being a little bit brash and winning a few awards, and John was really instrumental in cultivating my career sort of early on too, and then was able to make a big move into Palo Alto Networks from NextGen, who was a partner at the time, who's the largest cybersecurity company in the world. It's S&P 500 company. There's a $10 billion per year revenue run rate there. We work with the largest enterprises and accounts in the world, and I was really fortunate to spend 4 years there, ultimately working across a very specialized business unit and selling cybersecurity solutions into the largest, top 200 accounts within Asia Pacific and Japan. So I just had like this incredible career run as it related to cybersecurity. And again, it's just really set me up. I think being high agency, the background that I have, and just like a mix of opportunity as well as, executing on that, just ended up having this amazing career in cybersecurity. So, and then saw the transformative effect that like a great career and making the right decisions can have, on a personal life. And then I just think there's no better industry in the world to get into than tech.
Tech sales.
Tech sales.
So let's talk through where you are. Like, let's talk, current state. You're running a new company called Double Triple. Started March this year.
Yep.
How did that come about? Like, obviously Palo Alto, like, great, you're in a great role there. Things are going great. You're at the pinnacle of cyber. Like, I guess, was there a specific problem that you wanted to solve that became apparent? Like, how did this come about?
I think there's a few things, Benny. The first one is always had the entrepreneurial itch and wanted to start my own company, just never knew exactly what that would be. And almost thinking about army career, cybersecurity career, the business skills that I learned along the way, always wanted to launch my own company and make a big impact on people too, people's lives. The other big factor was Kayla, of course. She's very execution mode, high agency, also came from a startup tech background as well, and sort of having a shared history around being in the tech industry. She started to become quite well known in social media and was like, I want to learn the content marketing skill and use this very deliberately to also be valuable for something that we can launch in the future. And then for both of those things combined, we just looked for the signals of like, is there traction here and product market fit from a business framing perspective, which I was very early signals for. And then I think the third big motivator was just like, and you talk about the conviction, right? And the passion behind like what you're representing. There was a very close link towards the careers that we've both had in tech sales, which are quite complementary. Kaylee coming from, a hypergrowth AI startup that's had a $3 billion exit and just, $500,000 in career earnings, and just like seeing her fly through the ranks from SDR through to like really enterprise AE selling from a startup into, the ServiceNow acquisition is just like a dream run. And then for me to have a career coming from a different background in the army and then having this dream run and having built a $100 million business in software distribution and then moving into the largest cybersecurity company in the world over that 8-year horizon, I just found the link of like, I just think it's really powerful in terms of what a great career in the leading industry in the world can do to your personal life.
Yep.
And so those three major factors combined was like, okay, let's actually offer something to the market here where we can really help people to transform their lives by making an intelligent career decision in a highly lucrative, high-paying career. And it's like, yes, there's a financial outlet, but it's also the personal, professional growth that comes with being in a great industry. And ultimately, we've launched Double Triple only a couple of months ago to really be the world's #1 tech sales advisory firm. And at the heart of it, it's really impacting people's lives and transformation journey and making a big impact, to individuals and what will grow to be, I'm sure, tens of thousands of people within Double Triple, really helping them make a move into tech sales or really level up their career in tech sales.
There seems like there's like, so my first awareness piece to tech sales was when we were using Salesforce, my first company.
Yeah.
And I ended up hiring some people from there, one of my account executive. He was so good. I was like, man, come over. So
nice.
Got him. And so that was like my first entry point into like understanding about tech sales. Like there was no education, no awareness. So I think like what you guys are doing, like I'd say a lot of people have no idea about, if you're not from tech sales, like what is tech sales? Like there's not a lot of information about it. So I think there's this huge like awareness bucket that you guys are breaking. That's going to, like you said, it's going to create these incredible opportunities for people and transform their lives personally like it has for you.
I feel like it can be seen as like a bit esoteric.
Yeah.
When something is like a little sort of closed group a little bit. And it's like, how do you actually even access a tech sales career? How do you even access the next Salesforce? Like, how do you get on the rocket ship of OpenAI before ChatGPT launches? Like, people just don't have that visibility or awareness as you described, yet alone like the access to do so. And I definitely believe that Kayla and I are helping to really educate people that this is even possible, but also how to actually even get into the industry itself. And I think that's also the power of communication and media today. It's like you can really reach a large mass of people, and it's really developing the skill and the power of communicating that at scale now, and also showing a heightened awareness of like, no, there's a better way to do things. Which was actually a quote that I stumbled upon when I was in San Francisco my first year at SAP. It was like a big quote on the wall, like, there's a better way to do things, you just got to find it. And I think that's been a big driver for us in terms of like bringing awareness to tech sales. And I think a lot of people are sort of like awakening to the fact that it's like possible for them regardless of their backgrounds, skills and experiences. Yeah.
I think it's a big point you just mentioned at the end, like regardless of their backgrounds, right? Like I guess like you don't need to have a tech background. That would be a misconception, right?
Big misconception. I think a lot of people see tech sales and they think, do I need to be tech to do the sales? But it's not. The reality is you don't. And so I think there's like an assumption and a perception there. which we're trying to debunk too. Because again, at the heart of it, it's like, you know, it's the selling part, it's the people part. And even selling has like a little bit of a misconception to it, I think.
Yes.
So when you understand the framing of like what it actually is, you're driving meaningful outcomes or solving meaningful problems for customers, you know, it just opens up the horizon for people. I think also a lot of people sort of come to us and they're just like, well, can I really get into tech sales if I'm coming from a trades background?
Okay.
Or, you know, I might be coming from the medical industry. How can I possibly move into tech sales? And there's actually a lot more transferable skill sets than what people realize.
Yes.
Regardless of where they're coming from. So, you know, we help people to really quantify that and actually tell a story around themselves and how that can relate into different realms of tech sales. And it's just like a really powerful unlock for people.
I'm assuming like it must be extremely competitive, right? Trying to like go for roles in tech sales, especially now. And so I guess there's two parts to what you guys do, right? You're helping people like break into tech sales, and then you're working with people already in tech sales. Like, do you maybe want to talk through both those offerings? Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So for the people wanting to break into tech sales, again, looking at where they're coming from today, they could be someone with maybe no professional experience at all, or they've got a few years professional experience and they want to make a move to break in completely from scratch. Break into tech sales can also appeal to people that are wanting to make like a career pivot. And this relates to my story, right? Like coming from the army, it's like, how on earth can you break into tech sales when you're from a completely different industry? But again, you start to recognize that there's things that tech hiring managers will look for that also will make you a standout candidate. And a lot of the time it's just translating that in language that will resonate. And also the playbooks and the strategy around how we do that is also a bit of a special, like a secret sauce in terms of doing so. Ooh. Which is a lot of fun. When people start to execute on the stuff we teach, they're just like, well, I literally hear it every single day, Benny. Like even just this morning, it was just like, I made these few tweaks and optimizations based on what you've taught us, and I couldn't believe just people started to reach out to me about opportunities in tech sales.
That's huge.
So it's like very, very remarkable for people to actually experience that. And I think, you know, a lot of the motivation we see is like wanting to improve quality of life, wanting to be paid more, wanting a little bit more freedom, autonomy. They might be coming from a job they hate and they're just like, I need an out. And it's just like, how can this other career opportunity just be so much better from the outset? So there's like a lot of different motivations for people. And then on the level up in tech sales type track, it's a similar thing. Someone might be coming from actually a tech sales career already, but they're working for like what we describe a tier 5 niche or Aussie type company, or regionally geographically, like a very, very niche solution, or it's basically like just it's not competitive in its domain. This isn't like a market leader. It's like literally a tier 5 sort of solution. And so they want to take their skills experience and make a significant jump in their own career, and they would look to work with us to really target the next big tech company. Or they might want to move into AI or cybersecurity, where Kayla and I have very inherent deep expertise in. So coming from like a tier 5, you know, building management compliance tech solution platform, you know, into like an AI first platform is like a big jump in their career. And typically those people are also doubling their income by making that move and rolling out the stuff that we teach them too. So it can apply quite universally as it relates to both breaking in and leveling up. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of outcomes orientation to how to do that we teach. And it's really helping people double, triple their income, but also get benefits like, you know, better sort of health, fitness outlets, remote working, and even just getting access to brighter, sharper minds. Like working with co-workers, and the people and culture element is really important to people.
You said the word remote. Like, I think what's pretty cool is, I mean, you guys can facilitate, like, if they want to work in an office, they want to work remote, or like a bit of hybrid, Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So there's a lot of roles. I would say the majority of the best roles available today are a combination of the hybrid roles.
Okay.
And even for companies expanding into different regions, remote roles. It's very rare that we see tech roles that are like 5 days in the office now.
That's cool.
I don't think they attract the best talent, right? If it's 5 days sort of mandatory. So I do think the sweet spot, depending on the circumstance in the tech company, is that hybrid mode. And you typically will find it necessitates also, depending on the stage of the company, the growth, how much traction they have in the market. If they're really, really early stage, you're going to get more of like 100% remote feel, but there's going to be times where you come together as a team and you're flying on site to meet customers and things like that. So there's a lot of variables there, but an abundance of remote opportunities by the same token, especially depending on that company size.
Yes. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, like a big, I'd say, value prop of coming into like double triple is your access to distribution to like place someone at the correct company.
Yeah.
Because like I think there's such risk of going to the wrong company. Like firstly, like it's a short stint, doesn't look good on the resume. Secondly, like it's a waste of time. And I feel like curating and making sure that someone gets placed at the best company that's going to give them the best outcome if there's an exit. Like you said, Kayla obviously did very well with MoveWorks.
Yep.
Like there's like an art to that, right? That placement.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the access that we have directly into the tech sales industry is unmatched. We have partnerships with strategic partners and tech companies directly. And then we also have like a bit of a matching algorithm, again, secret sauce that happens too. And just also, you know, drink our own champagne as it relates to tech and helping to basically find an abundance of opportunities that really match the candidate's profile at the end of the day. Then we overlay that with like an evaluation framework to choose the right tech company. Interestingly, someone came to us in the program where they had come from the high ticket sales background.
Okay.
They had about 5 to 6 months in like a tier 5 tech company and had an absolute shocker. They didn't get paid any commission that they were promised, and it was basically like a big falling out. And he came to us and was just like, please help me choose like the right company so this doesn't happen again. And I think that just goes to show where it can go horribly wrong, because, you know, like I think a lot of companies can like label them tech companies, but how do you choose the best one and how do you maximize your move into tech sales?
Yeah, it seems super important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you can sort of back the wrong horse, but at the same time, you want the frameworks and the support, the access to back the right horse, because you can have a big equity payoff in the future, which is a huge upside outside of base and variable pay, which is a OTE, like an on-target earnings. You know, we see entry-level OTE at like 130, 140K, yet alone like AEs getting paid 300K, 400K, the best performers earning millions of dollars a year when they're an expert in their craft after a few years. But then yet alone the equity that you get, options, shares in the tech company themselves, and especially with the right profile of company, that can be a huge payoff for people. Hundreds of thousands of dollars after a few years being paid off just because you back the right horse. Yet alone, you know, the benefits and allowances and superannuation here in Australia. So just overarching package value is just extremely lucrative for a lot of people, and I think it's like also a mindset shift of like, this is actually possible out there.
Yes. Who comes to mind of someone that you've placed recently, just like crazy good outcome?
Yeah, there's probably 2 people that come to mind for me. One coming from like a early on in our program, coming from like the medical and pharmaceutical sales background. So again, a bit more of like the it's like the break in track, but again, helping people like pivot from previous experience. I was able to support her going from about 200K to a 360K package.
Big jump.
Huge jump. Yeah. And a very, very exciting, again, we talk about company selection, choosing this amazing hypergrowth health tech, health AI startup. So, you know, equity in that, and then just like uncapped commission too. She's already bringing great sales skill sets, and she's already hit the ground running and like amazing traction there. So that's, you know, that's an awesome success story when we speak about that. And there's heaps of them. Like we think about another person that comes from a professional nanny background and was earning like 60, 70K a year, and then was able to make a move into a great fintech company in the States, actually in the US, and was able to get a 100K package. So it just like, again, even quantifying the results have been at least the 1.5 or the 2x jump just in the package and the pay, like remuneration itself, yet alone also people like just another day, you know, coming from like a very niche sport tech Aussie company and moving into a tier 1 global multinational company, able to move the income from about 180K to a 260K total package, but optimized for equity too. So took a bit of a lower base and had the luxury of choosing more equity and stocks over that longer term horizon. So just like different levers and different examples all across the community of people that have been really successful in those outcomes.
Seems pretty blue ocean what you guys are doing in Australia, like as a new business, right? Like I haven't seen. Have you got direct competition?
Not in Australia. Like I think it's very, very blue ocean. Like I haven't seen anyone doing what we've been able to do, and probably just like the models and the playbooks and the results that we've been able to get for clients. You sort of see what is the imitation is the most form of flattery. You know,
Yep.
sort of like little micro accounts popping up here and there, sort of trying to replicate what we've been doing, which must means we're on the right track. But yeah, it's just like I think we bring a lot of credibility because we're practitioners that have actually done the thing that we're providing. You know, we both have 7-8 year experiences in literally 2 of the best tech categories in the world, known globally by all the experts, cyber and AI. Like you just can't replicate that, let alone what we've been able to do in our own professional careers. Yeah, I think it is very blue ocean because we're bringing that awareness and that education to people that this is possible, but we're also taking them through a program and a journey which is tech enabled. There's community, there's course curriculum, and there's also people that they get unparalleled access into the network that we have and the tech companies that are all looking for exceptional talent from varied backgrounds. So yeah, I just think it's a very remarkable time to be talking about tech sales today.
Yeah, it's always good when people copy you. I remember people used to always, in my first business, always copy our website, or like iterations, like we'd have like a website and then like 6 months later would redo it. It'd get ripped off. Then our taglines, I used to love it. But getting back to your comment, you know, they can't copy you and Kayla. They can't copy being in the military for 7 years, professional athlete, top of their game in cyber. Like, so like there's certain things that people just can't copy.
Totally. It's like the age-old advice, isn't it, Benny? Like you can't replicate you.
That's right.
So if you look at the program, you look at the product, you look at the business, it's like at the end of the day, no one else is Gabe Marzano, no one else is Kayla Stanley, and no one else has this amazing, factor of a lot of dimensions to support someone to actually make an impactful change in their life. So yeah, it's just like a very exciting thing. And it also means a lot to us. Like people genuinely, very emotional about making these sort of moves, and it's very special to be able to provide that to people and to a lot of people that want to make a meaningful change in their life. So it's it's also like not something we take lightly either. Yes.
Is the tech industry, tech sales industry, is male dominated?
Yeah.
Yep. Like what would you say? I know it's an estimate, like the split up between male female is.
I actually don't know what the split is between male and female. Like 20% women,
like the army,
something thereabouts.
Like when you started.
It's probably similar. Yeah. There is so much talk within the tech sales industry that we want more women to come into tech sales careers, come into our industry. Diversity of thought, diversity of people. It's really, really important in tech.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Is that we haven't talked about that? Is that a motivation for both of you to bring more women into the space?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think both as women ourselves, we're sort of representing that just naturally. Whilst we have a lot of men in the program and we're used to being in male-dominated environments, like we're very passionate about bringing women into tech sales careers and into the industry. I'm personally involved in, women in ICT here in this part of the world. I've got a lot of amazing women mentors that are all very passionate about that too. And it's, if I have any piece of advice for any woman that's even considering, a career move like this, it's just like, please come and join us. Like we want more women in this field.
Well, why do you think there's not a lot of women in tech sales? Is that sales? I wouldn't even know. Is that sales in general? Like what's...
Potentially. I think it's pretty unanimous, isn't it? Across like a lot of industries.
Yeah, I've never actually looked into it.
We'll have to dig deeper.
Yeah, but I just think it's like, it just seems like it's a remarkable opportunity.
Big opportunity. Yeah, and it's like, I know a lot of people even, I was talking to a good friend just this morning and he's actually hiring and he wants to hire women in his sales role.
Okay.
It's just like people are actively, and I know my experience at NextGen, like John was very vocal and passionate about women in tech. It's very highly spoken about in terms of bringing women into roles. Yes. And I think it just represents a really big opportunity for people.
You mentioned a few times when we were speaking about, you had an interest to become an entrepreneur, and obviously you are one now, you're a founder. It's obviously been early stage, you started a few months ago, but like, what's been the experience? Like, what's been the learnings? Like, what's that high level kind of insight that you've discovered?
Yeah, I remember being on Ben Nash's podcast and he was like, oh, what's coming next? And it was like, yeah, we want to launch our own company. And he's like, careful what you wish for. What do you think, Benny?
Be very careful.
Entrepreneurship is definitely not for the faint-hearted. Ooh. That's for sure. But
sorry, what do you mean when you say that? Like it's not for the faint. Like what's your interpretation of when you say it's not for the faint-hearted?
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship really, it's like the ultimate test of like human capabilities, in my opinion. It's like you're constantly being challenged. You constantly have to grow. There's new challenges or problems to solve, and I always feel like I'm leveling up every day, being an entrepreneur and a founder now. And I just don't think you get that in any other experience.
I agree.
Like at all. Like it's like the ultimate test of what are you capable of. And it's almost like my personal experience coming from the army, being successful in a corporate career, and now being like I've burnt the boats, pulled the parachute, and I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a founder. It's just like a whole nother frontier of opportunity, I would call it. But it also brings like a very deep introspective learning and growth journey with it by the same token. So at a high level, how would I describe it? It's been hard, but it's been really rewarding. And I wouldn't change it for the world because there's like nothing better than just being able to choose, you know, your own path, what you do, how you move the business forward, how you service clients, and just like at the end of the day, how you create something really valuable that people want. And I just think it also, you know, it's like an external and an internal thing all at the same time.
Yeah. I'd agree with a lot of that. I mean, I also find like it's this, I remember this guy once came up to me like 3 years ago. He was a younger guy and he was asking for just some advice around, he was looking for transformation and he was talking about like going to these events and, you know, and I just said, start your own business. Like if you're going to experience transformation at the highest level, I can only speak from my own experience. Like I felt like it's the panacea of transformation. You know, all the mirrors come up, you see all the weaknesses, all the blind spots. There's so much learning. It's incomprehensible. I
totally agree. Like it's been a rapid learning journey even in the first few months like for myself personally. And it's just like constantly just like how do you sort of like outgrow what you've known before to go to that next level? It's just like it's a very interesting transformational journey for sure. I remember probably about 12 to 18 months ago, I got really interested and involved in the VC ecosystem here in Australia and like got into angel investing and got to know the big tier 1 VCs and the accelerator here in StartMate, which is really similar to Y Combinator over in the US. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, what sort of person do I want to be? Like, do I want to be the investor that's advising these startup companies? And do I want to stay in corporate like as an advisor and maybe like a consultant to these entrepreneurs in these new companies? Or do I actually want to be the new company? Do I want to be the founder? Do I want to be the entrepreneur? And there was just something about that whole experience which is just like, I can't sit here and offer like sales and go-to-market services for these startup companies. Like I have to be in the arena. Like it was just like a very clear experience for me of like, no, the next thing I want to do after my experience at like my career at Palo Alto Networks is just jump both feet in the deep end and be the founder, be the entrepreneur at this point in my life. The VC stuff can come later, the advisory can come later, but I just wanted to wear those stripes of like, I've done the founder mode thing, I've built the business, I've set out what I've said I was going to do. And there was just nothing more appealing. And I remember I've got like a journal about it of just like similar sort of thing, Benny, like it's the ultimate test of performance. It's what's going to come with a lot of transformation, and there's just like nothing better than I can imagine this next phase of my life is just like being entrepreneurial and being the founder. And there's just like a really clear experience for me now looking back on that.
Listen, congrats on all your success. You got an incredible story. I was just listening to how all the dots have connected. It's impressive. So well done, and just wishing you guys all the best with Double Triple. Like it seems like it's a really, really, really exciting opportunity. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to see that come to life for people too. So here's to the next phase of Double Triple, and thanks for having me on, Benny. Thank you.